Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So we're back in the glowing sea again, and today we're going to try and wall this place off and hopefully keep the denizens of the glowing sea at bay. So, as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button. Let's get stuck in. So we're going to start off with a gatehouse. I had a few ideas for this one. I had hoped to build something with like an internal spiral staircase or something along those lines in it, but it did not want to play ball, so I reworked the idea. I'm quite happy with the result. It looks pretty cool. You can use some of the double height junk fences to produce walls for this thing, and then put a floor over about halfway up. So with the floor in place, I did actually have a bit of practice before I got on with this one. I had to change my mind a few times, so it's cut down the faffing time quite a bit, fortunately. So I've got a couple of retextures on the junk fences now with a recently updated USO, which is very, very cool. So we're going to take advantage of a few of those. I'm going to line up the point where the fence starts to arch back in about halfway up with the level of the floor here. Should give plenty of clearance underneath and look pretty good. Bit of cover from the sides. Although the purpose of this gatehouse and the walls as well is not really to keep people out so much as sort of Deathclaws and Feral Ghouls at a distance, because pretty much everything else can get past walls anyway. But it will keep things like that at a distance until they can be dealt with from a safe position. So we'll move this into place and nudge it up a little bit. I wanted to make sure it had as much sort of headroom as possible without having the thing end up floating. So when I find my way up the stairs, we'll take a look to see how it lines up. It's not quite right there, so we'll have to straighten it up a little bit. But next thing's next. Put the gate on. So I've already pre-measured it, which is why I need to use the 3 floors rather than anything else, so it's just about the right width for the gate. And we'll rug and pillar and get that into place. I did have a go at just straight up group selecting it in, but it was very picky about exactly where it would sit, and it wound up being off centre, and that bugged me. So what I'm attempting to do here is just use the chain link on the top there as a guide for where the edge of the floor is. So I want the wooden section just below it, so effectively it would clear under. Not that the gate opens inwards, but there we go. And then we've got the chain link sticking just over. Nice and neat. Still a little bit off centre, but I did decide here that I didn't actually like the position of it. Just to the left of that telegraph pole, electrical pole there, which is where we've just walked through, there's a nice little sort of dip in the ground between the car there on the right and the bush there on the left. It makes for a nice little entryway, almost naturally there in the ground, so I'm going to shift it over and position it there. Unfortunately, I couldn't group select the gate as well because it's still sat on the rug. And those rugs are incredibly temperamental when using the invisible ones. So, we'll shuffle it all over and move it back into place again, and there we go. Not too much clipping through the ground. There's a tiny little bit in the corner there, but we can live with that. So now I need to give it a little bit of extra support. So, get this on the rug again. Unfortunately on this side it's a little bit awkward because of the positioning of the gate, which is not quite even in its design. And with the ruined car there, it's a bit of a pain to get this in, so we'll shift it over onto a bit of an angle. And just lean this junk fence up backwards against the outside of the other one, which will provide a nice little bit of support. Or at least the illusion of it, anyway. There we go. And we'll repeat on the other side. And there we go. So the idea here is just to use a couple of closed shipping containers to form the start point of the wall, and positioning them with a little bit of an overlap so that I can put access to the upper level of the gatehouse there from these. So it works out okay. It puts them on a bit of an odd angle, but it keeps in the sort of scrappy look of the thing going on quite well. So I'll nudge it into place, and don't leave me with room on that corner there to put a kind of improvised staircase in a moment. I've tried to mix up to a degree the objects I'm using. There's a couple of shipping containers here, and there's a few other bits and pieces as well, but it's predominantly junk fences and sort of handmade junk walls, I guess, is the best way of describing it. But I messed around with these for a little while before I got them lined up in a way I wanted. But kind of closes off the gate a little bit there, but I think it looks quite good. So as these are slightly awkward heights, and they're being sort of sunk in a little bit, the existing staircases don't quite fit. They're too high or too low. So I'm going to improvise a little bit and create something of my own. This is basically a recreation of the cinder block staircases, but with only 2 steps rather than 3. There is a 2-step version, but it's still a bit too big. So I'll line those up. When you're using these cinder blocks, there seems to be one side and one end. They're a lot more forgiving with a collision than the other, so it's worth experimenting a little bit so they'll fit in. So use 2 planks on the top there to get that little bit extra height. Oh, put a bit of plywood on, and there we go. With this one being a little bit lower, decided to actually just use the straight up cinder block staircase from that section of the menu. So we'll drop it in, but we'll still have to improvise a bit to create a bridge. Unfortunately, this would be the section that I managed to fiddle around and make, and then fail to save, so I had to come back and do it all again. But on the bright side, when the actual finished version, which is actually kind of hard to see, but I have tweaked it ever so slightly so it looks a little bit better supported than it does from what you're seeing here. There's actually planks underneath the plywood. But apart from that, it basically looks the same as this. So, a couple of the new custom rails. Or rather one of them, and we use a concrete tab one on this side because it actually fits. And there we go. Quite pleased that I was willing to snap in so conveniently. So we need a couple of turrets now. I need something to put them on. And my major objection that I've had rather to seeing other people use tables for this is they tend to use wooden tables, and they're just thinking that the recoil and the shock from the firing turrets are just going to trash them. But these retextured ones that have been recently added in USO, these ones in particular have a metal texture to them which looks a lot sturdier. Admittedly, laser turrets probably don't have the same recoil, but still, they look the part better. So stick them in on an angle so that the tripod fits a little bit better. And a little bit of rug glitching to just nudge them a little bit further forward. Repeat the same thing on the other side. My reasoning behind the heavy laser turrets rather than machine gun turrets or something like that was just that I figure they can be powered directly from the main generator, and I won't have to spend so much time looking for ammunition for them, which will be in a seriously short supply out in the glowing sea. There we go. We have the finished gatehouse. So, onto the walls. I'm basically, for the most part, going to use shack bridges here. You see, for the framework of the walls. It's just a simple case in this particular situation of group selecting them into place. If you just make sure the bottom of your concrete pillar or whatever is below the level of the legs, you group select them in, no problem. And then we just need to improvise some stairs to change the levels. I don't actually imagine the settlers are going to spend much time walking around these, if they can even path across them. The nav mesh rugs that have been recently added in USO might help with that, but it's still going to be a bit of a challenge. On the other hand, the idea isn't really to patrol them to keep out sort of wandering people, it's just to slow down things like Deathclaws and stop them getting straight up into the compound, and so you can keep them at a distance while you deal with them. Which is generally a good idea with something with claws that big. Well, there we go. Unfortunately, I forgot to put extra supports in for this little staircase, but it does the job. Fairly standard 2 short step staircase with them just group selected together. This one went in very easily actually. Just group select that bottom one, jump up top and just slide it straight into place. It was much more convenient than I was expecting it to be. There we go, simple as that. Not quite sure how I would put extra support on that anyway, but can you do? So the next thing is to basically dress it up. So again, it's a combination of rug glitch, rug and pillar, just to push things together. With these junk fences, it's particularly handy that you can rug glitch them, because supports at the back hit the legs of the shack fences there, shack bridges rather, and obviously they won't sit very closely. You have the same problem with the barbed wire at the top as well, but using the rug and pillar allows us to position them in without the collision issues, so there we go. If you look closely, you'll be able to see from the other side that there's a bit of clipping going on, but at a glance you can't really tell at all, so I don't actually go on to line the inside. You can if you like, I suppose, but it's hellish time consuming as it is this. It's quite repetitive and time consuming, which is why I'm only going to show you a small part of it, and then you can extrapolate any which way you like, really. But that's the major reason, that and, you know, real life, as for the delay in this particular video. So that it's just taken ages to actually do the whole thing. This particular piece is the one of the walls from the metal tab that's been retextured. It's the more rounded version, and it's a little less forgiving when you group select it. Just a bit inconvenient, but when you swing the angle around so you're on the side like that, you can see a little better what you're doing. And that is basically the gist of dressing the walls. It just becomes plugging the gaps after that. So some of these you can only group select, some you can use the rug as well. Make sure we've got as much clearance there as we can. And just slide that into place. Not too happy with the clipping there, but on the other hand, it does just add to the general scrappy look of the whole thing. Unless you're looking really closely. That one went in quite well. So, with the walls finished, we're going to put a couple of sort of lookout posts on the walls. So I've pulled a couple of sections out. There's another one around the other side, which I'll show you in the tour. And it's just a case of finding the most convenient place to do this, where the shack foundation will actually fit in. But then it's just group select, slide it into place. And the idea here is that, apart from having it fill in the gap, is that we've got a little section here to build a staircase onto. Because at the moment we don't have any significant ways up onto the wall. And look at that, isn't that convenient? Which is a basis to work from. That truck and trailer that's just in the corner, sort of in front of us here that you can't quite see, was dead simple to put in as a section of the wall. Basically rug glitching the pillar to move it into place, and repeated the same thing on the trailer, just positioned it up so it looked like it's connected to the back end of the cab, as it would be in the real world. And it sort of follows the line of the ground. There's almost a implied pathway just below the level of the main house, just this side of the truck there. And it looks really cool. I quite like that one. So just use one of the ordinary shack walls to snap to the side there, and then snap the roof on the top. And then I'll use the custom vanilla assets wire fence posts, because they're rather forgiving and cooperative, just to provide a bit of support. The posts in the barn tab would probably have been a little bit more supportive and would have looked better, but they are so snap happy that it's really quite awkward, and they don't snap to the corners, they snap in a little bit, which I never really like the look of, so I prefer these. So we'll put a few walls in there just to provide a little bit of sort of enclosure to it, and to make the whole thing look a little bit more sturdy as well. And this one's going to be convenient, and we'll rug glitch that. That metal one, funnily enough, didn't actually need any help to go in there. It just sort of needed a few small adjustments, and it went straight in on its own, which was very nice. It didn't snap, unfortunately, but of course it didn't. So, here we're going to skip over a little walkway I tried to build for the to connect that lookout post to the top of the truck here. So I tried about half a dozen different ways of doing this that just didn't work. So we'll have a look at the one that actually did work, which was scaffolding. You can see there that when I put the ramp on, that's going to clip straight through the back of the truck, which is not going to do, so we'll adjust that. It's just a case of sitting that floor straight on the top, which is very happy to do. Adjust it a little bit. Snap that on. It does clip through the planking there, but I think we'd justify that with a saw, so that helps a lot. One of the other drawbacks I had to making this was that I had to leave the rug in place for the both pieces actually of the truck. So the legs of the scaffolding there won't sink through the rug, unsurprisingly, but this particular solution avoided a collision issue there as well, which was quite handy. So a couple of the planks, another new addition to USO. That's plywood on top. And we have ourselves a nice little bridge. As the other problem I had with the other ones I built was that putting a staircase inside just led you to running headfirst straight into the roof, which didn't actually stop you getting out, but kind of immersion breaking when your head passes through a solid object. So we'll repeat our standard bespoke staircase, if I can speak. But this time, as I did on the other one as well, I'm going to put a slight angle on it so it'll curve away from the wall a little bit, because it's in quite a confined space. So it'll allow us to get around the corner a little better there. It's a fairly subtle little curve, but it works. One and the other one has the same principle, but it also has an out-and-out corner in it, just because I simply ran out of room before it could get to the ground level. Well, groups like that in. Slight drawback to doing it blind here, obviously you can't quite tell how close or far apart the top step that we're moving in and the bottom step that's already there are. Ends up being a little bit closer than I'd like, but it works, so that'll do. And as I moved it any lower, it started hitting collision, which I think was on the shack bridge rather than the stairs, but it works, and that's the main thing. Now, convenient enough, once you start building above about 3 steps using that technique, it becomes very difficult to just place the next step in. It tends to want to snap, but won't turn green when it's on the upper level. But conveniently, in this case, 3 was enough to get it very, very close to the ground, and I just pillar glitch this last one straight in. And there we go. So we use the angled half walls there just to dress it up a little bit with, because I do like that slope on the top for this particular job. It's a little bit finicky about where its will and won't go, but looks good when we get it in. There we go. One more around the back in just a moment. For the moment, we're going to put a couple of small shack floors and snap them onto the staircase as and where they will go in, just to make it look a little bit more solid as you walk up the thing. Would have liked one more in there, but no joy, unfortunately. So nudge that in, and there we go. So the last couple of bits, a few sandbags that we're going to rug glitch in just to provide a little bit of completion to the thing. I mean, they're not really there to provide much protection. You're not trying to protect against firearms, really. Might give you something to hide behind from a bloatfly attack, maybe, but they do give a more completed look to the thing. I'll put a couple more in, but it's exactly the same principle. And we'll nudge one more wall in there, along with another post. Use 2 rugs for this one, because collision. That makes the thing look a little more solid. Pull those rugs out. And there we go. I probably will put some furniture in there at some point, but not just now. So let's take a look at the full build. So around the upper levels, basically what I've done is the same thing, but I've just used straight up large fences and group selected with the rug as well. just so that they look better on the slopes, especially with them being as steep as they are. Otherwise it just looks like you can hop over them. A little bit more set dressing on the front here. Some spikes and stuff to hopefully keep any glowing sea creatures at a distance. Turrets doing their thing. Wiring those up without the wires just sticking randomly out the ground or being all over the place was a total pain, but we got there eventually. Yeah, get a decent look at the truck now. Really like the way that works as part of the wall. It looks really cool. Could maybe put a few more bits and pieces out there, but everything here is literally right up against the build limit on this side. Not so much here, but across the frontage it was. And you can see the double height junk fences doing the job there much better than the ordinary ones would. Swing back around the front and have a look at the inside. Put a couple of supports in underneath so that the floor doesn't look like it's unrealistically about to cave in. It's just a case of group selecting those into place. Bit of a look at the wall from the inside. Once I build a few more structures inside, it will hide up the fact it's not so well dressed as well, which should be quite good. It's the other lookout tower. And the other side there. Just take a look at the top of the gatehouse. Gives them somewhere to stand and fire from should they need to. Little ladder there that went in quite easily actually. Put a few bits and pieces around it just to complete the look. Take a run along the top of the walls. So I'm not too sure whether or not anybody will be willing to walk along here. In fact, I very much doubt the settlers will be when I eventually put some in, but I can, and that's the main thing. I don't think that is actually floating, but it does look like it is. Let's have a look at that. Through the gatehouse we've just built. Put an extra post in there because it did look a little flimsy. A lot of these different heights between the shack bridges didn't need any help to get up and down, but some of them did, so there's a few stairs in there. We'll take a quick look around the back. So I wanted to keep this gap open and usable. It's a little steep to get up the slope, but of course it would have made a nice little cutting through. So and there we go, that's the back of the lookout tower built last time. You can see the just plain junk fences on this side. We've got one more little lookout position here, a couple more turrets. That one's really not in the right place, is it? Oh well. Just overlooking the freeway there, because any creatures have basically got to run straight up to the walls there, so I thought a bit of a lookout point here was a good idea. And that's basically the walls. So thank you very much for watching as always. Do hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to keep up to date with everything on the channel, you can find me on social media. The link's down in the description. I will be speaking to you all very, very soon.